Hi everyone. Today I would like to talk to you a little bit about grep. grep is a search tool that we'll use in Linux that has the ability to search through a set of information and then only tell us the information that it was able to find that matches what we're looking for. So if we, for example, know that we are looking for a specific file or type of file somewhere, but we're not exactly sure what the entire name is, or if we're looking for a particular user on a system, we would be able to use grep to search through and find that information and then have it get back to us. So what you can see on the command line right now is I have the file called datebook. And if we look at the file called datebook, we can see that I have names, phone numbers, addresses, states, zip codes, birthdays, and then a number at the end. Now, these are obviously all fake information. There is no Sir Lancelot or Zippy Pinhead outside of the comic that I am aware of. So this is just some information for us to be able to practice on. So if I wanted to look at the entirety of the file, I can of course just cat the file. However, I probably don't want to do that, especially when the files get bigger. The file that I'm using is a sample file that is attached to the lab if you're one of my students, and if not, this is from the Unix Shells by Example booklet, which was published probably almost 20 years ago now for the last edition, so you can usually find it online, which I don't recommend you do because I think it's outside of copyright. So anyway, whatever you do, don't Google Unix shells by example to look for this. So with grep, we actually have a couple ways that we can do this. So I could, for example, grep for something in my file. So let's say I want to look at my file and I want to look for Boston. So I can grep for Boston in my file, and you can see I have my one result. Let me clear that so that you can see it a little better. Now the second way that I could do this is I could actually cat the file, pipe it to grep, and then search for Boston, and this will give me the same result. This is not exactly the same thing. It's the difference between standard in and searching the file, but for your purposes right now, for beginner stuff, they're the same, and you can basically have them function the same. So these are two ways that we can use grep. Now for this example, for this video, I'm going to be doing the first way. So I'm going to have grep and I'm going to pass it what I'm looking for and then the file that I am looking for it in. So I can do things like grep for Boston in my file. I can also do things where I can use options. Now, if you look at the grep manual or the Linux Pocket Guide or other resources, you can see that grep does have other options. So I could do something like look for grep for people that aren't in Boston. Oops, sorry about that. And don't forget your file. So you can see all of the results of people that aren't in Boston. Now, other things that I can do is grep can actually take regex as well as options. So for grep, I can look for, for example, not Boston. I can also look for ignoring case, so if I had a lowercase Boston, something like that. But I can also use regular expressions or regex. So I could, for example, look for all files that have all lines that start with Z in my datebook file, and I can see that Zippy Pinhead is going to show up because Zippy is the only one that has the start of line starting with a capital Z. Now, I could also look for things at the end of the line instead of the beginning of the line. So I could, for example, grep for 57000 at the end of the line of datebook, and you can see I was able to find that. Now, grep does have a lot more possibilities than just this. These are just a couple of examples. There's going to be a lot more options. There's a lot more regular expressions that you can do. You can even do things with like egrep and fgrep, which if you're using one of the newer GNU Linuxes is probably rolled into grep, but you can actually look into that if you're not sure. And so that you can start trying to work on how grep is able to search for things for you. Now, one of the last things that I want to remind you of is it seems like a lot of people are forgetting about piping. One of the things that makes the command line really nice is we can actually search for things and then pipe it to other commands. So let's say, for example, I'm looking at my datebook and I see a lot of people that are ending in 3 zeros at the end of their line. So I can see I have 4 people, and this is a pretty small file. But what I could do is I could search those 4 people, pipe those results to grep, and then maybe I only want the one in California. So I would be able to actually pipe it over and, oh, I would be able to pipe it over and then only get the one in California. The misstep before was I added datebook. Don't add datebook because then it's going to search for the entire file and give me everything in California as well as the thing that I actually wanted. But you can see that you can actually take your results and pipe them over to another command so that you have the ability to search through your results even further if you need to be able to do that. So don't forget that you can combine commands, pipe information to other commands, and find your way around using grep. So hopefully some of these basics will help you as you're learning how grep works and how to put it together. If you feel like you're really struggling with the regular expression portion of grep, don't forget that you can always refresh on your regex or regular expressions. There are several websites out there that are really good for that. And you can start putting together some more complex statements to be able to find what you're wanting. I hope this was helpful for you learning grep. If you have any questions, please let me know.